Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. In the previous video, we covered the ba form conjugation and how to use verbs, adjectives, and or nouns in the ba form in the grammar pattern ba form of clause 1 followed by clause 2 to mean if clause 1, clause 2. Well, in this video, we're going to cover another grammar pattern that is most commonly interpreted as being yet another conditional form. It was alluded to in the previous video, and that is the tara form. So the tara form is a new form that we're introducing, but the way that we conjugate verbs, adjectives, and nouns into the tara form is going to be really simple, because basically all we're really going to do to get the tara form of a verb, an adjective, or noun is we're going to take the ta form of the verb, the adjective, or the noun and simply add the character ra right after it. As for what the tara form is used for, its function, its definition, its meaning, the ta form basically breaks down into two different interpretations, and we're going to go through them individually. The first one is just going to be the simple translation of after clause 1, clause 2. And as you can probably tell from just that, this is going to express some statement that is talking about the past tense. The second meaning that the tara form can take on is the much more common interpretation, and that is just going to be a hypothetical or conditional statement. So like I said earlier, what we're going to do is we're going to go through these individually. The first one that we're going to cover is the first one mentioned, and that is the tara form in its past tense version. So how we tell if tara when used is in this past tense version is when the second clause, C2, is in the past tense basically. And so this is going to mean after C1, C2. And this is actually very similar to a number of other grammar patterns that we've covered in the past, such as C1 toki ni C2 as when C1, C2, or C1 te kara C2 as after C1, C2, but there is a very subtle difference. Actually, make that difference is plural. So the first difference, which is actually going to be the most important one, is that when we're using this grammar pattern in its past tense version, the second clause, C2, cannot express an intentional action. That's basically just not permissible in this grammar pattern, and if you wanted to express an idea that is something along those lines, you would have to use a different grammar pattern, such as the ones that I just mentioned, toki ni or te kara. And there is another subtle difference between this grammar pattern and the toki ni grammar pattern, but we'll get into that more when we go through the examples, which we'll actually do right now. So for our first example for this version of this grammar pattern, we have the line Heya o soji shitara kutsushita o mitsuketa. And what this line is going to translate to is basically just after or when I cleaned my room, I found my socks. If we break the sentence down bit by bit, first up we have heya, which is going to be room. Secondly, we have the direct object marker o marking heya as the direct object of the verb that's about to follow, which is going to be soji suru, and this of course means to clean. We've gone over this a number of times in previous videos, but here we're going to conjugate suru into its tara form. So suru turns into shita, and shita turns into shitara. And that's what we have for the first part of the sentence. And now we move on to the second part of the sentence, which is kutsushita o mitsuketa. And kutsushita is going to be socks. We have the direct object marker o, once again marking kutsushita as the direct object of this next verb that we have, which is mitsuketa, and this is going to be the verb mitsukeru, to find, and this is going to be in its past tense. And since it's in its past tense, we know the tara grammar pattern that we're using here is actually going to be the one that's the past tense version and not the conditional or hypothetical version. So now we put the whole sentence together, and we have heya o soji shitara kutsushita o mitsuketa, and this is going to be when or after I cleaned my room, I found my socks. Pretty simple. For our next example sentence for this version of the tara form, we have the line Raku no raibu ni ittara atama ga itaku natta. And what this sentence is saying is just basically after or when I went to the rock concert, my head started hurting. First thing we'll do is break down the sentence bit by bit. So first up we have raku, which is going to be rock. We have no, the noun of a noun grammar construct here, modifying rock to apply to the next word, which is raibu, which is going to be live, which is more naturally interpreted in English as concert, I guess. We have the particle ni marking that concert or live as the destination of the going verb, which is going to be iku. Iku we're going to conjugate into its tara form, so it turns into ita, which then turns into itara, and that is the tara form that we're using. And now for the second part of the sentence, which is just going to be atama ga itaku natta. And atama is going to be head. We have the particle ga marking it as the subject. We have itaku, which is the e adjective itai, which means hurt or painful, and it's going to be modified into an adverb here, and then it's going to be followed by the verb naru, and naru means to become. So basically that's going to be to become painful or to just hurt, and naru is in its past plain tense here, natta, which makes the sentence into its past tense, which makes this tara form that we're using here as the past tense version, not the hypothetical version. And with this example, we're actually going to make note of the distinction between the tara form and the toki ni form. So even though the C1 tara C2 form is interchangeable very frequently with the C1 toki ni C2 form, in that they both mean when or after C1, C2 happened or whatever, there are some cases where there's a subtle distinction that may alter the whole meaning of the sentence. And this example that we just used is an example of one. So the thing about the C1 tara C2 grammar pattern is that this grammar construct kind of implies a somewhat of a relationship between the two clauses, C1 and C2. But with the C1 toki ni C2 grammar pattern, there is no such implication. So the difference that we have here in this sentence is that the line raku no raibu ni ittara atama ga itaku natta is kind of going to imply that the headache that you got, the head started hurting aspect of the sentence, is a result of the going to a rock concert, which is the cause basically. On the other hand, if we were to use this same example sentence but with the toki ni grammar construct, as in raku no raibu ni ita toki ni atama ga itaku natta, that sentence itself is not going to express that the headache is a result of going to the rock concert. It instead is actually going to imply that the two things happening simultaneously is more of a coincidence as opposed to a cause and effect relationship. And you should be able to see how that makes a really big difference depending on what you're trying to say in your sentence, and that is a very important thing to note indeed. That's a little tidbit about the distinction between tara and toki ni. Likewise to that, tara and tekara, the tekara form, actually are quite interchangeable as well, but there is that other subtle distinction in that tara can't be used to express that C2 is an intentional act, and that would be the time, if you wanted to say that you would use tekara instead of tara.